All right, let's rock and roll. So we've got a really great event today. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to take a quick couple of minutes just to introduce myself and Startup Patterns and give you some framing around what this program is all about. And then we're going to hear from each of our participants in the program and hear some amazing stories today. So I'm really excited for this. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Sam McAfee. I'm the founder of Startup Patterns, a company that is hosting this event. I've been in tech software product development for about 2 decades. Started out as a web developer in the dot-com boom many years ago. Had about a decade of running a boutique software development agency, building lots of different products for lots of different clients, large and small. I had a couple of leadership roles in some tech organizations for several years. And for the last 5 years or so, I've been running Startup Patterns, where we provide assistance for technology leaders and their teams and how to build better product organizations through a variety of means that we'll talk about later on. I'm very committed in general to the idea of making product development and work anywhere for anyone better and a more enjoyable and effective experience. That's kind of my mission in life. So how we got here today, Startup Patterns, originally, when we started it, we were focused on helping companies with innovation programs or helping incubate startups or helping to do large-scale agile and other digital transformation programs. We did a lot of that work for the first few years. And what we found was that while the product development process and team coaching is really important, and we were really effective at it, that we would sort of hit a ceiling or a container that the entire organization, and particularly the leadership level, really needed to be involved in order to make things better for those teams and have better outcomes for the business and the customers. And so about 3 years ago, I made a pretty hard pivot more towards leadership and organization development and communication and culture, still bringing along the sort of lean, agile product development stuff, but really more focused on helping leaders bring their teams up through coaching and other programs. We're joined by my colleague and partner in crime, Joan Brennan, who's been an advisor to Startup Patterns for 3 years. And was really integral in, through many discussions and dialogues, we developed the idea for what we now call the 3 pillars of mindful leadership, which sort of really our core program that we use. And as we were developing that program, trying to come up with a way for leaders to help their whole organization transform, what we realized was that these 3 pillars were basically a big part of that. So the pillars specifically are the grounded self, which is really about the individual leader and overcoming their own internal barriers and really getting in touch with their sense of purpose. The second pillar is effective communication. That's, interactions between individuals and really learning to lead with empathy. And the third pillar, really the ultimate goal, is called tipping the organization, where you apply all of that to try to influence a lot of people across an organization to bring about real change. And so we've had a little more than 40 or so graduates over the last 3 years go through the Mindful Leadership program and its related coaching programs. And around sometime at the beginning of the year, we had started to hear from a lot of the participants and people that we were working with that they wanted some more advanced level skills. And something that really came out of our work with organizations is that almost a fourth pillar, if you will, is for leaders to be able to have a voice out in the world and to share their message or their approach to leadership, which we sometimes think of as thought leadership. Basically, being able to tell your story and lead with your values and help others through giving them examples and practical applications of these methods to be able to go out and spread the word of these leadership approaches. And so the practicum was really born out of an advanced level of the three pillars, combined very intentionally with a way to help people develop into thought leaders in their own right. And so bringing us here, we're going to show off some of the incredible content that folks in this first 6-month cohort of this practicum have built for you all. Joan, do you want to say anything about, what are you most excited about, or what was your favorite part of the practicum?
Absolutely. Yeah, the practicum was so great just to get to know everybody, have some really intense and thoughtful discussions about leadership, see people's different styles and how values-based everyone is. And then, of course, to see what people created, and what they've been thinking about. It's really, really impressive.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So we're going to go right to our first presenter. I want to introduce you to Christy Elliott. Christy and I have been working together for a while. First started working when she was leading product for a higher ed tech company. I worked with Christy in helping her teams implement some new methods of product development, and we've been pals ever since. Christy signed up for our practicum and has been through some pretty intense experiences through that process, and is going to share with you now what she's been through and how that became a part of her story. And take it away, Christy. I'll stop talking here. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Hey, everybody. So like Sam said, I'm Christy Elliott. I am a Gen X tech leader whose focus has been on working with and leading technology and product teams for almost 20 years. Most recently, like Sam mentioned, I was leading a combined product and engineering organization of just under 40 team members and managing our company partnerships. The last 10 years have been utterly consumed by my career, so I'm now focused on trying to remember what it is that I like to do for fun. Sam and I met a few years ago, like you mentioned, when I needed a partner in transforming an organization. His leadership priorities were similar to mine. He had great experience transforming engineering teams, and after chatting for a while, I knew he was exactly what we needed. And then in early 2021, when I decided I wanted to start building more of an online presence, I talked with him about it. I wasn't sure I wanted to lead product and engineering orgs forever, and he mentioned starting a new practicum. His goal was to help those of us who prioritize abandoning outdated command and control management practices find our voice and tell our stories. It was a perfect fit for where I was, so I signed up. The practicum started in April and focused first on the fundamentals of storytelling. What I didn't know then was that my life was about to take a severe right turn. At the end of April, my mother was diagnosed with advanced stage pancreatic cancer. My sister and I dropped everything, flew across the country to be with her, and she passed away 4 weeks later. As you can imagine, suddenly writing about tech leadership wasn't at the top of my priorities list. After Mom passed away, while still in shock, my sister and I found ourselves responsible for managing and liquidating her estate. Now, like most people, she had a house, bank accounts, investments, friends, a car, and a lifetime worth of stuff. She was the keeper of generations of family photos and furniture, and she also had a home renovation project that was too far along to stop. Now, unless you've been in a situation like this before, you may not realize how overwhelming it is. Even with all of my career and life experience, this was by far my most stressful situation. We were 1,500 miles away from our homes and friends, a very long drive from the closest airport, grieving our loss, and we'd never done this before. We were luckily in the small community where we grew up, and our mother had been a beloved educator and community leader for most of her adult life. So we did have personal access to resources that many people don't. During this time, I used every skill I've developed over my career and my life, along with learning quite a few new ones. It took us 4 full months after she passed away, focused on this full time before we were able to go home. Now, even with all of this happening, I stayed in Sam's practicum. It was a way to keep connected with the outside world, and our group provided support and acted as a sounding board as my writing priority changed. Instead of talking about tech leadership, which I'm sure I'll go back to eventually, my focus broadened to helping people simplify complex problems. Simplifying things has always been a passion of mine, so I'm starting by telling my sisters and my story. I'm focused on end-of-life planning and providing support for people who find themselves in a similar situation. My blog, Don't Pass on Planning, just launched on Medium. You'll see the link here in a minute in the Zoom chat, and all of our content that you'll see today will be shared after this presentation as well. My first articles will be focused on what we should be doing in our own lives to be prepared. This isn't just for old people, as well as addressing the responsibilities of unexpectedly finding yourself responsible for liquidating someone else's estate. One of my first articles, just posted yesterday, explains the importance of setting up beneficiaries and how to do it. Setting up beneficiaries on all of your accounts is the simplest thing you can do to guarantee your liquid assets, for example, cash, stocks, and life insurance, are distributed the way you want them to be, and your loved ones don't have to manage them through probate. To reference the last episode of one of my favorite TV shows, House, everybody dies. Let's make this process simpler for us and for those we leave behind. Now, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Although my writing focus has changed, I'm also still available to talk with you about product, engineering, leadership, tech, or just the best books I've read recently. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Christy. That was great. That was really good. Cool. So each of our speakers will have links that we'll be sharing in the chat, and also sending out follow-up emails with the recording, and also ways to get a hold of everybody. And so look out for that. Our next presenter, I'm rolling right into, is our very own Matthew Hokinson, who has the distinction of having worked with me in the trenches back in those, heady.com days of the beginning of the 2000s. And it was really nice to get reconnected with Hoke. He's had many technology leadership adventures since. And so I was delighted when he joined us in the practicum to start building his thought leadership. And we're going to hear right now from Hoke what he's been up to and what he wants to share with you today. Take it away, Hope.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, as Sam already mentioned, my name is Matt Hokinson, otherwise known as Hoke. I'm currently engineering manager at Spotify. And so I worked with Sam before in the aforementioned boutique product development days, which was fun. Learned a lot, got to use a lot of different programming languages. But since then, I've been focusing more on sort of tech leadership and engineering management. And one of the reasons I decided to sign up for the practicum was I needed a more focused way to figure out what I wanted to write about, who I wanted to write about it for, I guess. And yeah, so it was good to just have some focus instead of just thinking about actually writing. As far as the experience in the practicum goes, a few thoughts there. It's always a good reason it's always good to have a reason to read a book, or many books in this case. So one of the little side benefits is it ended up being a pretty good book club. I was generally aware of 3 out of the 4 books before I started, but we went into really nice depth into all the books, which was super helpful. And each of them had their own purpose throughout. The one I didn't know about, Games People Play by Eric Byrne, was excellent and really provided me a nice formulaic view of how interactions between people work out. It's actually something I'm still really chewing on this many months later. I don't know if that'll be a returning book for the practicum, but it was an excellent part. At a meta level, in retrospect, this is obvious, but at a meta level, it was the first time someone ever asked me who I wanted to write for. So that was extremely helpful. And I actually had to sit and think and answer that question, who is my audience? So that was great. And as Christy mentions, it was also sort of helpful to be in a group working through this. I guess that's where sort of mastermind groups come in. But yeah, watching the other participants work through their own processes made me feel less alone in bouncing from idea to idea and pondering different audiences and not necessarily knowing exactly what I wanted to do right away. So that was awesome. As far as the things that I've decided to write about, I'm sticking to engineering management or tech leadership mostly, and using the space to kind of concretize things that I've been thinking about over my career or things I'm bumping into day to day, talking with coworkers and peers. And so one example, my first blog post is something I'm mostly jokingly calling the 1 elephant rule, but is still kind of like a helpful framework. Basically, the TLDR is it's usually okay to have 1 elephant in the room, in this case in a meeting or for a project. But as soon as you go over that 1 elephant number, you get 2 elephants in the room, or God forbid, 3 elephants in the room, you really have to focus on getting that elephant count down to 1 or 0. And then in the blog post, I sort of go into maybe some ways to mediate between people to remove said elephants. Sam already mentioned the links will be available. I ended up just putting the blog on Medium, techdub.medium.com if you're impatient. But that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Our next speaker is James Buster Myers. But we've been working together for a little while now, maybe about a year or so, through his transition from military service into civilian life relatively recently. And, a lot of, he's working around like literal rocket science, shooting things into space. So he has like a pretty exciting background, and I can't wait to hear what he's going to share with you. Take it away, Buster.
Cool. Hey, everybody. So my name is Buster Myers. I've been in aerospace research and development for about 26 years. And as Sam said, 21 of that was for the United States Air Force. And I've had the luxury of leading technical teams for that entire 26-year run. And so that's pretty cool. But when you do research and development in the military, what they really want you to be is a generalist. They want you to be as broad as possible. The point being that if they need good technical leadership somewhere, they could just take you out of one team and put you in another team, and it doesn't really matter what technology you have. Right or wrong, that's their philosophy. And so when I decided to transition to the private sector, that was a problem because I found most of the companies wanted technical depth unless I wanted to sell my soul into program management. So because I wanted to stay technical, I realized instantly that I would have to build my technical chops. And just to illustrate the difficulty, like I was sitting in the interview for this particular role or this particular job, and they said, when was the last time you worked in space hardware? And I said, gosh, 2005. So I knew that I had to rebuild my technical credibility with this team, and it would be a process, and I'd have to go from the ground up and build that depth that I was missing. And that was okay. Like I had accepted that. But about a year and a half ago, I was working with Sam as an executive coach, which he does an amazing job at. And that's not a shameless plug. That seriously, like he helped me walk through what the problem was. I was having an existential crisis. And that crisis boiled down to, after working through it for like a few months, I had lost my voice. And I had a lot of experience that I felt I needed to share with my team, but I didn't have that technical credibility yet. I wasn't at the point where I would be trusted to lead those larger teams. And so we worked through that. And then when the opportunity came, of course, to be a part of an incubator program for thought leadership, I was like, aha, that is a great opportunity for me to use my voice, to get what I have to say out there, and to also initiate dialogues and get feedback so that I could become a better leader and still hone my skills. And as far as the program is concerned, I think I'm the only one who did not like one of the books, and now I came to love it. It was the weirdest thing ever. But that was great. What I found of highest value in the course, though, was just listening to the other perspectives and getting the feedback, learning what stories other people wanted to tell and why they wanted to tell them, and then how they would ultimately tell them, has just been monumental. And I really appreciate my classmates, my colleagues here for helping me through this process. So I chose to stretch my comfort zone. I went to video as a medium. So I don't have a completed video series yet. I want to wait till I get there before I release any content because I'm afraid that otherwise I'll miss release dates. But I went to video and I wanted to focus on the human element of engineering. And I'll share just 1 minute of that.
You know, engineers are often stereotyped as being painfully introverted, all about the rules, not wanting to share their emotions, and I haven't seen that that's true at all. What I've seen is that engineers are as diverse as any other set of humans on the planet. There are some that are introverted, some that are extroverted. But in general, we all crave that humanity. We all crave that ability to play together on a team. I mean, let's face it, this is a team sport. These problems are way too complex for one or two people to do it. And any team that rests on one or two heroes is not going to survive long, and it's certainly not going to scale. It's kind of okay that engineers are human. In fact, it's better than okay. That's where the money is.
Yeah.
So thanks for letting me share. If you have any questions, they'll post how to find me.
All right. That was awesome. Thanks, Buster. I'm very proud of you. That was super cool. All right. Cool. Let's see. The next person that we've got up. Oh, someone I've been working with for a while. We've had a lot of fun together. Is Dan Proctor. Dan's also had a number of adventures. And I'll let Dan tell you a little bit about what he's been focused on for the last 6 months or so. Dan, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. So, no, I've been working with Sam now for the past couple of years, and he's really helped me through times that I found myself in crisis, whether it was working or leading teams, being a new manager, going through the ups and downs of leading people for the first time, and also experiencing being a change agent and just how hard that can be on someone. And Sam has been an incredible support system through all of that. Looking specifically at this program, he found me at a time where I was really burnt out from going on my own to kick off a new startup initiative And I was really having a lot of trouble articulating exactly what I would be doing and what I'd be going about doing. And what I initially started to look at with this program was still teaching about tech, talking about some of the tougher things that people don't want to bring up. But I was really failing to look at what some of the larger issues I was facing, mainly around burning out. And I'd found myself in these situations happening time and time again that I was continuing to burn myself out. And I started to put my curiosity away from technology, but more onto my own internal psychology, if you will, on why this was happening to me. So throughout the practicum, working with everybody, reading books, talking with everybody, I was really uncovering a lot about myself and about what was really going on with causing these burnouts. And a lot of those issues ultimately came down to value, mainly how I was valuing myself, but also when I'd find myself in toxic situations in the workplace, how I was essentially letting others dictate my value and ultimately taking that control away from me and causing me to burn out so continuously. So as part of this, I went ahead and put together an article really diving deep into some of my past and really even diving into some past trauma I've experienced that has helped fuel my drive and ambition. And although I want to have ambition, want to continue that drive, I want to make sure I'm doing it in a way that's sustainable. And Sam really helped me uncover what a lot of those different issues were. So just to read a small snippet here, but the common thread between all my cases of burnout comes down to value, primarily the value I place on my own self-worth. Although toxic environments would further erode my sense of value, my own sense of value would always be on ever-increasing sliding scale as I learned more about aspects I previously didn't know existed. As I grew, I only became aware of ever more opportunities for improvement, but never that I was actually good enough as a baseline. So really taking this, working with the practicum, working with Sam and the group has really allowed me to place more of a self-value on myself and what I can bring to the table. But I also hope and plan on sharing this with others so that they can look at their own, whether it's internal demons or anything else, as we face this crisis of burnout, how we can help get through it together. So thanks again to Sam and the group for helping me through everything.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for sharing that. It's really powerful. And now we're gonna come to our final presenter. For our little session with Q&A at the end. You can ask every presenter questions that you might have. I want to introduce Steve Sanchez. Steve and I have been working together for a couple of years. And when I started working with Steve, he was just in the transition to a new leadership role, the new organization. And, it was like a little turbulent. He's, having a lot of fun with it. And yeah, we've had some adventures along the way. And I was really thrilled when Steve signed up for this program because he's got a lot of great ideas. And I was really encouraging him to share them. So Steve, why don't you tell us all what you've been up to?
Sure. Thanks, Sam. I really appreciate that. I think adventures is a bit of an understatement. I think in a lot of ways, Sam has been my Samwise Gamgee as I get to the mountaintop to deposit the rain. It's been great. Hello to everybody. Thanks for joining. Let me kind of kick off. So I'm Steve Sanchez. I'm an engineering leader. I have a broad range of leadership experience from small startups to large corporations like the one I'm in now. And just a slew of years leading. I was in the military for a long time, so I led in the military, in the Army, and even I'm a leader now in corporate tech. I've learned a lot over the past 10 years that I've been involved in technology. I use technology really to solve hard problems and create products that most of you likely use every single day. And I really focus on doing this by building strong teams that are focused on creative output and leading through clear strategic decision making. And with the work that I've been doing, I'm hoping to show that or break down the decision making processes that leaders need to succeed. And the practicum has been very helpful in getting me to put together some content to get out there into the world. When Sam first approached me about the practicum, my first instinct was, it sounds like a really great idea, but I don't know if I want to write anything or do anything right now. But I realized that this was an opportunity for me to really focus on releasing something and marketing it and putting it out there in the world and creating a voice and creating an angle to expose some of the knowledge and the experiences that I have with the greater world. And when it came towards thinking of topics and narrowing them down, I think everybody else has explained all the work that we've gone through the practicum and all the learnings that we've gone through. And as I was chewing on the topic ideas, I spent a lot of time thinking about topics that I'm passionate about. And I thought about areas where I have a lot of experiential knowledge. And I wanted areas where I can be niche enough to be, areas that were niche enough to where I could create a dominant, market share, while at the same time build a large enough user base to build a successful endeavor, whether that be podcasting or blogging or whatnot. And in doing so, excuse me, I landed on situational decision making for leaders as a way to walk through how I've made similar decisions and the processes and principles that I've used, and hopefully use that as a platform that others can learn from, or at least create a discussion or a community around. And leadership in general is something I'm passionate about. And my journey into decision-making theory and best practices has given me a lot of understanding on the best possible approaches to making great decisions. And when you think about it at its fundamental level, leadership is really just about making decisions. And out of that, there are many numerous areas where leaders must make decisions in order to be successful. And I thought it'd be great for me to share how I've already done this, how I've walked through this, some of my struggles, some of the failures that I've had, and the various leadership experiences I've had in my life. And Sam and Alyssa helped me take this sort of broad category and whittle it down to something that works for the goals that I'm hoping to achieve out of launching something, and with an area that allows me to produce a large amount of content. I'll tell you, putting this whole thing together has been an interesting experience that Sam and Alyssa both, and Joan have been very helpful with, because it's nerve-wracking to try and put something together and then shoot it out there to the world. Although it's fun to figure out how to blend my various experiences into sort of a cohesive narrative that I can continue to share with everybody else, there's a high amount of imposter syndrome and how to overcome that. And the books that we read talked about that. We talked the hero's journey and games people play and other things. We talk about overcoming some of this imposter syndrome and some of the landscape that you're going to come across as you go through this. It's also nice getting the feedback from everybody and being able to iterate through the group. And I have to admit, it took a lot more time than I had expected to produce one single podcast. There was a tremendous amount of work that had gone into that. Even just the idea of like, should I do a podcast or should I do a blog or should I do what Buster did and put together more of like a video podcast? Just that, how do I, what medium do I go for? And I thought, like, once I had a clear understanding of my topic area and my niche, I started thinking about the format. I had a really great conversation with Alyssa, and between Alyssa and Sam, they're like, we like to talk, so maybe you should do either podcasting or video format. And also, writing to me is kind of a bit of a scary process, writing something and getting it out there and then having how people view it. So I thought with podcasting or video, I could do this without having to write a bunch of content that people then read later. And I whittled that down even further to podcasting, because video editing is really, really hard. I think Buster's gone through that experience. It's really difficult to do that really, really well. But podcasting is significantly easier in that respect. It does, and ironically, it does actually involve quite a bit of writing, as I write a bunch of stuff and edit it and then re-record it and edit. But it's easier to blend various audio recordings than it is to blend various video shots and whatnot. And actually, I'd love to share the first episode that I have put together. It's still in beta format. I'm still getting feedback, and I'm still experimenting with the format and the content. But this first episode is really about making decisions when you are the least experienced or least expert person in the room on the particular topic. And Alyssa, would you mind playing that for me?
Before we begin today, I'd like to walk you through a few scenarios. Picture for a moment that you are at the doctor's office awaiting the results of some tests that have recently been performed on your 2-year-old son after you noticed him exhibiting some strange ticking motions and erratic behavior. After some waiting, an older doctor walks in, flanked by several other doctors, each one of them representing a different specialty. They file into the room and begin a lengthy discussion about the brain, the parts of the brain, endocrine system, optic nerve system, and even explain seizures and seizure activity in detail. Before you can collect your thoughts, you are being accosted by words that sound like English if it were the bastard son of another language. They shoot out terms like gelastic, hamartoma, hypothalamus, grand mal, petit mal, and intractable and stereotactic before you can process anything. Someone else in the room, you're not even sure whom at this point. It could be another doctor, a nurse, or the fucking cleaning lady, who knows? Announces in a very clear and serene voice, your son has a non-cancerous tumor in the center of his brain. It's causing him to have seizures that can't be controlled with medication. The longer the tumor is in his brain, the more severe his seizures will become. We can operate on your son, but we need to know what you'd like to do. And almost immediately, you slump down into your chair and you try to make sense of the situation. As several strangers stare at you, seeking an answer for how to proceed.
Thanks, Alyssa. So it's just a quick sample of it, talking about a very traumatic episode of my life, where I'm definitely not the expert on brain matters, but everybody's staring at me to make decisions. I encourage you to download the podcast and reach out to me and give me some feedback. I'm still playing around with the format and the content and tying that difficult life situation into some of the more mundane day-to-day interactions that engineering leadership or just leaders in general might come across. So thanks so much, Sam. Thanks so much for everybody for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. That was great. That was really great. I'm really excited to see how the rest of the podcast comes out. I just want to say I am so proud of each of you for all the work that you've put into it. These pieces of content are so powerful and so heartfelt and so coming from a place of purpose and values. And it's really exciting to see this come out. I know you're all going to do great. So congratulations. We're at the end. This is just the beginning of your journey, but it's really super exciting to see this happen. Shifting gears just slightly, we're going to open for any questions that there might be in a minute, but I just want to let folks who are listening know a little bit about the structure that we used. We're going to continue. This was the first one of these programs, and we're planning to kick off our next cohort right near the beginning of the new year. And if you're interested in that, we'll tell you how to get in touch with us and how to get on the waiting list. The way things are organized is, as you've heard from your presenters, we had set up some readings that we did that were really about the idea of storytelling and the narrative and sort of the journey of the individual. So you're going to set the frame for how people could think about what kind of content they want to share from their own life experiences. And then we led them through a process of starting to figure out the audience, figure out what topics they want to cover and what kind of media they want to do it in. And so we had, a whole program around, do you want to set up a website? Do you need feedback on your content? Everyone in the group helped everyone else, as you've heard, read each other's pieces. And we talked through a lot of, fine tuning and editing and that sort of thing. And this is the result. As you can see, it's pretty great. And we're really proud. And so if folks are interested in looking at the next practicum round, Alyssa, what's the best way for people to find out more information on that?
Hey guys, I will post a link. There's a page specifically that outlines all the details about the practicum program. So I'll shoot that in the chat as well, and we'll make sure to follow up with you guys too, so you can look at it afterwards as well.
Super. Okay, great, great. So now's time for just a little bit of quick Q&A before we wrap up. If any folks who have been listening have questions for myself or any of the presenters, we're happy to answer those. Melissa, can you help me keep an eye on any questions that might pop up into the chat? While we're waiting for that, any of our presenters have any final thoughts on the experience of putting this content together and presenting it to the world?
Yeah, I can go, Sam. I thought it was really great. Oh, did I step on Christy? I'll let you go.
Sorry, you don't like to talk, Steve, so that's why we like. So I was going to say, clearly we've all, made great friends and colleagues through this. So that is another really fantastic thing, folks you wouldn't necessarily run across otherwise, and fabulous perspectives. One of the things for me that was probably the most important was just the support. Like I said, most of us started out and we were going to talk about tech, right? And I probably had the hardest 180 on what it was that I was going to cover, and everybody was just like, yeah, you should totally do that. And you're not going to get that kind of support everywhere. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, totally. We do have a question, unless Steve, I'm railroading right over you, but
No, I'm just going to say it was great. I really enjoyed it. The community, the camaraderie, and just the advice from Joan and Alyssa, and getting feedback from Christy and Dan and Buster and Hoke is really great. I really appreciated the entire experience.
Yeah, it's a really fantastic group. We also enjoyed the experience, by the way, working with each of you. If one question we got from the audience is if you could share one piece of advice with your past self before you started this content creation journey, what would it be? Maybe each of you, if you feel moved, could give an answer to that.
I mean, I can go. It's like bouncing around in my head.
You like to talk. Why don't you go first?
I think that the one piece of advice I'd give myself before, if I could go back and talk to myself before I started this journey, it's that to have a little bit more faith in my ability to produce something. I think I had some rocky moments there where I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Or so just a little bit more faith in myself, and a little bit more faith in the process. I got a little bit, what's going on next? How are we going to make this happen? That sort of thing. But I think it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, just that. I mean, it took me a while to get started because it seemed so daunting, right? And if I just gotten started earlier, then I could have failed fast. And that's what I did not do. I failed pretty late in the process, and then got a lot of great feedback from the people who were here on this presentation with me, and was able to roll that in. But yeah, I mean, I might have had 2 or 3 videos already rolled out if I had just started early. Just do it. I mean, just, take the risk and do it.
Yeah, I'll third that. If it was before, even if it's before the practicum, right? Like I wrote a long time ago and managed to survive. And for some reason, I was just really afraid to give it a shot. I'd tell my teams, just start, it'll be fine, right? But I didn't take my own advice until this. And so, yeah, if you're thinking about writing something or starting a blog because you really like to talk, or, creating a video or whatever, just do it. And, one of the beauties of technology now is that you can edit it and republish it if you don't like it. Like, it's not like the old days, where it went out in the newspaper and then it was there for the whole world to see forever. So
permanent record. Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely.
One thing coming up, probably don't expect the practicum to solve everything. It's actually tangential to what everyone already said. So
what do you mean? Of course it's going to solve everything.
We got amazing community and support. we got some really hard questions we had to answer about what exactly we wanted to do, who we wanted to do it for. We read some awesome books and had some excellent discussions. But to think that it was also going to make me write early and often as a procrastinator, there's only so much the practicum could do. So that's what I would tell myself before. It's still on me to write. There's a bunch of other awesome stuff that comes out of the practicum.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Dan, any final thoughts you want to share?
No, I think kind of just summing it up with what everybody's said is just to be open and be open to the new things, new ways of looking at problems, and ultimately getting to solutions. I think that's critical in everything, but especially with this, as you're really starting to look at yourself.
Yeah, definitely. We're happy to take another question if there are other questions that folks want to pop in the chat. While we're waiting, I have maybe one more that I could ask of each of you, if you're up for it. I'd be curious how you're thinking about the future now, in putting this material together, and when you think about, where you want to take it, and how to kind of make it part of your professional persona, part of your work, whatever. How are each of you thinking about moving from here on as thought leaders?
Yeah, so great question. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and discussing it with my significant other as well. One of the things that I really want to do is, this is a test bed, a platform for me to launch and be okay being out there in sort of the public space. So I want to continue to build out a lot more content. I think I'm not sure I want to be like Joe Rogan, create my own successful podcast / show and rake in an exclusive deal with Spotify. And I'm not saying that I launch things through Spotify because how it works with Spotify, but it's that sort of building that content and being comfortable getting my message out there and using that as a tool to learn a bunch of different things that I've been playing with, both in small startup world and then as much larger corporations, like marketing, building an audience, iterating over content ideas, getting more feedback, and producing better and better content as I go along. So I think it's a precursor to any other endeavor or adventure that I'd want to take from there on, whether I want to go start a company or go help another small startup at some point in time. This process is going to help lay that foundation because I can do it very quickly in real time without needing to enlist tons of people to make it happen. So that's kind of my future path right now. But who knows? I mean, yeah, maybe I could be the next Joe Rogan on Spotify exclusive deal type thing.
Why not? Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Who else? Who wants to go next? Christy?
I have actually been thinking about this a lot as well. This is a pretty significant difference between, what I've done historically as a career and what I'm thinking about now. I'm taking a hiatus from my full-time job. This is the first-time job. So I'm considering actually becoming more of an estate expert. There are a couple of startup ideas I have associated with this space, right? Where I could leverage my tech experience and then also be able to help solve a problem. So I'm a little bit all over the place. If any of y'all hook up with me on LinkedIn and stuff, we could talk through some of those ideas and you can give me a head check on, whether or not you think it's a good one. So that's where I am. Maybe I'll go back to becoming a tech leader in the way that I was before, but something tells me that I'm not going to. So we'll see.
Awesome. That's great. Anyone wants to do a startup, get in touch with Christy. Who else? Dan.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely given me more of a grounded sense of my voice. And I think throughout this program, something that I've definitely gotten a lot better doing is just getting my thoughts out there. Being in high tech, being an innovator, I'm always trying to stay on the cutting edge. And I think that's scary a lot of times. And I think before going through this program, it was really not having the belief in myself to be saying things and to be a thought leader myself. And I think the programs really helped kind of give me the confidence I've needed to keep putting stuff out there and keep putting content out there and you know what, I may be wrong a few times, but at least I'm getting it out there so I can get the feedback to ultimately get to the right things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dan. Buster, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, Christy's story was way inspiring in the way, she made this journey into something that wasn't her career. That was a cool idea that I had never, ever thought of. And then, mix that with like a Dan, even before we did the practicum, I saw a Q&A podcast that he had done with a video format. And just like, so the possibilities just open up when you go and look at this stuff and see what other people are doing. So I found myself wondering, it's like, okay, I can do this work related thing, but how can I play with other formats and how can I expand but other cool shit that I've learned in my life?
Totally. Yeah. Thanks, Buster. Hoke, you want to have the last word on what your future plans?
Oh, wow. Last word. Lots of pressure here. Yeah, no, I mean, as far as continuing writing, I mean, I've already said it a few times now, but having a much more clear picture of who I'm writing for, and like just that sort of, I think Dan already said it, like ground, like sort of framework to build off of is a good place for me to be. And so, yeah, just going to keep writing things down and putting it out there and see how it works out.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hope. Well, listen, I really want to thank each of you for participating in the program and bringing so much of your real selves to every session and doing some real hard work. This is not easy. We knew it was going to be hard. I'm really thrilled with what you've come up with and excited to help support you and promote the work you're doing around this in the future as well. I also really want to thank Joan and Alyssa for helping put together this program. Joan, it was really a pleasure to co-facilitate each session with you. We had a lot of fun doing it, and I want to thank you very much for really helping to design what we're doing here. And thanks a lot, Alyssa, for all of your help and support. And if folks want to get in touch with us and hear more information about the next practicum, and sort of, we'll be making it sort of bigger and better and building on, what we've learned from this one and refining the program. But we're really excited to do the next round. So please do get in touch with us. And thanks everyone for coming. Hope you have a great rest of your day. All right. Bye, everyone.